What's up, Browns fans? Spencer German, Anthony Moeglin with you, counting you down to the start of training camp. As this airs, will be just a week out from training camp getting going out in Berea, so it is close. Football is just around the corner. We have players reporting across the league, rookies reporting across the league. Browns rookies are expected to report on Friday, except for maybe one person, which we'll get into here in a second. But Megs, I know you're excited. I know I'm excited. Football just around the corner. It's a bittersweet feeling because it means summer's coming to an end for me.
No, cut that.
It also means football's here, so it's good.
Football is here. All right, big news of the day. We didn't even talk about this pre-show. I'm throwing it on you. Rank the Chargers all Navy jerseys from a scale of 1 to 10 that they dropped today.
Like 1 to 10, like what I think they are.
1 Ducks, 10 is the best jersey you've ever seen because they're an 11. They are perfect.
You think it's the best jersey you've ever seen?
Dude, the Chargers whole setup with the powder blue, the yellows are horrible.
I mean,
everything yellow.
Wait, go ahead.
Everything yellow, they have a full yellow combination they should never wear. They should take the yellow pants out because their powder blue on white are perfect. Their powder blue on powder blue are perfect. Their white on powder blue are perfect. Their white on white are perfect. And now they dropped the LaDainian Tomlinson navy blues with the bolt with the dark yellow. It is so good. It was so good. You didn't even see these. I can see it in your eyes. You didn't see it.
I saw a release of it. I think I saw the yellow one more prominently than the blue one. But I remember the blue one, and I'm looking it up now. And yes, the blue one is pretty legit. Like, I do like the blue one. It's a really, really good jersey. But am I going to say it's the best jersey I've ever seen? No, because I think that the best jersey in their repertoire. I don't even think it's the best jersey in the repertoire because when you have the powder blues are the best jersey in the NFL.
The powder
hands
blues
down. That's powder blues. That and the Buccaneers creamsicle jerseys, which are also
no.
Also, the Eagles Kelly Green is sick.
The Eagles Kelly Green are elite. Take the Buccaneers creamsicle jerseys, throw those in the trash.
No, those are great. They're not better than the Kelly Green.
The Kelly
Eagles
Greens,
jerseys, but
Kelly Greens
the powder I have maintained since a young age because it used to be like now the Chargers wear powder blue like all the time. Like that's like their primary color. But it used to be like back in the day when I was a kid and I grew up watching football. They only wore the powder blues like in prime time. Like they were like a special jersey. And so there was a little bit more it was a little bit more special. But even back then, I maintained that was the best jersey in football. And I'll take that to the grave until I see something better. So to me, yeah, these navy blue ones are good. They're sick. They're really nice. But it's hard for the Chargers to outdo the jersey that I think is the best jersey in football because you can't. I just don't think you can beat the powder blues. How do you beat the powder blues?
It's true. It's a good point. I like I don't know. I like the LT dark navy blue. I think those are strong, but I do think that their powder blue on whites probably are up there. That would challenge for me. But I think they have 9 jersey combinations now, which is hilarious in its own right. But just an awesome. The rich get richer in this scenario. Like they were perfect, and then they just got even a little bit better with the drop of these jerseys. I think they were sweet.
You know what else is a sick jersey?
Cleveland's brown on orange. Come on.
That's not what I was going to say. No.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say the Patriots old school, the red jerseys.
What is it? Patty Patriot? Is that his name?
With Pat Patriot snapping the football. Like the Dolphins old jerseys are sick.
Yeah, those ones
are nice. The Houston Oilers jerseys are pretty sick from back in the day.
Oilers are pretty good.
Who else am I thinking of? Who else? There's definitely another one I'm missing. Oh, here's a more modern one for you. The Saints, I think, have like the coolest like the color rush concept they have where it's like the white and they have like that gold that like really stands out. Like those are pretty slick for like a more modern jersey.
And they just dropped, I think, a new helmet the other day that it's an all white helmet with, I don't know, they made some changes to it that looked really, really cool. But yeah, it is. We're full on. Here's another question for you before we get into all the Brown stuff. Are you watching Quarterback on Netflix with Burrow?
We started it. We only got 2 episodes in, so I have not watched all the way through.
All right. What are your just initial thoughts so far?
Why isn't Kirk Cousins a Cleveland Brown?
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, I almost stopped the show. I almost just stopped
the show.
You know
what's funny is Joe Burrow is like such a what's the right word I'm looking for?
I have a word for it.
Joe Burrow has become like a cultural phenomenon in some ways.
Yeah.
And like we were sitting there watching and my wife looked at me and she was like, Joe Burrow's kind of weird.
He's weird. Yes. Yes.
And I was like, I think there's something about like his aura that really gets the people, and more specifically the women, going. Like there's like a younger generation that finds him attracted because of his aura.
Well,
but I was like, I get what she's saying. Like he has a weird vibe about him, but I think some people find that attractive. That's all.
Yeah, well, and he's got the flowy hair. He's 6'3", he's the best quarterback in the league. That also helps.
I already thought that Kirk Cousins was weird. He's kind of weird in his own right.
Oddball. Let's go positive real quick. I think Jared Goff is freaking awesome.
Yeah, I will say that like only 2 episodes in, I have already done like a complete 180 on my thoughts on Jared Goff. Like I always thought like, oh, this guy, like he's just playing above his skis. And now I'm like, I actually am rooting for him. Like, this is cool. I'm kind of like in his camp now. I saw some video of him like showing up to a JUCO practice, sort of doing like the Chad Powers thing that Eli Manning did. And like he was disguised and they didn't know it was him. And so like, I don't know, like I'm like really rooting for him now, like sort of behind the scenes. So
I thought it was really cool when he got traded from LA to Detroit. And I forgot Detroit sucked. Like I forgot his first year they were kind of winless until that one crazy game against the Vikings. But the story he tells about getting traded and then talking to Dan Campbell on the phone and being like, oh, they actually want me. Like this is how it feels to be wanted. And then later on, I haven't gotten there yet and I can't wait to get there. But I think it was the game against Green Bay when Campbell was like, yeah, hey, dude, in the team meeting on Monday, he basically pointed at his quarterback and was like, it is on you. You have to play great this week. We're going for it on 4th down every time, or all that stuff. Dude, I was sitting in my chair. I saw it on Twitter. I was like, oh, my God, I'm ready to go. I would run through a brick wall for Dan Campbell if he said that to me.
Yeah, so I'm considering me a Jared Goff fan. Anyway, we've gone completely off the rails here to start the show, which is okay. It happens. We're avoiding our first topic. I was going to say we're trying to avoid the elephant in the room here, and it's you all as a viewer and a follower of this team, you know what it is at this point. Obviously, the Quinshon Judkins situation, arrested in Fort Lauderdale. Details of the situation have kind of been unveiled over the last several days. It was a pretty graphic sort of description of like what happened. Obviously, we start all this by saying the legal process still has to play out. We don't know what's going to happen, if he's going to be found guilty, any of that stuff. But he is dealing with this situation, and it does sort of paint this ominous picture in terms of whether or not he will be at training camp, available for training camp. And frankly, it's kind of twofold here, Megs, because it's not just the fact that he's now caught up in this situation. It's also the fact that he is the only rookie on this roster who hasn't signed his contract yet. Quinshon is one of 30 second-round picks that hasn't yet signed their contract league-wide. And one of the only ones who has is his fellow second-round pick for the Browns in Carson Schlesinger, who signed his. And this is all part of this sort of movement to get more fully guaranteed contracts for second-round picks in the NFL. Agents are negotiating these things. Like I said, Carson Schlesinger got it. Quinshon did not. And I'm assuming that's part of the reason why he didn't sign his deal yet. And now it's sort of in question, like, will he even get fully guaranteed money from the Browns? Because they could sort of go back and say, after this incident, like, we don't know if we can trust you. So it's all very interesting. I think that's all sort of the above board stuff, the logistical stuff in that part of it. But from just a purely football standpoint, this is not good for the Browns, for for a number of angles. A, because what is his participation level going to be in training camp now? Will he be there when rookies have to report in 2 days on Friday? It's looking less and less likely like he will be there. He was touted as this workhorse back, the sort of new era of the running back room here in Cleveland. It's supposed to be headlined by him alongside Dylan Sampson. And now all of a sudden you're missing the guy that you were sort of building the run game around. And we've talked a ton, Megs, like about how going back to Kevin Stefanski's offense is an exciting thing, and the run game is going to get back to form. And Quinshon, and I've loved Quinshon from the beginning, so this is highly disappointing from that standpoint. But if he ends up getting suspended, and it's an if at this point because we don't know. Now you sort of are behind the 8 ball with this run game that was supposed to be sort of reinvented and remade here, and it's going to be super unfortunate that you don't get to see Quinshon Judkins out there being part of this new era and leading that charge, because there was a lot of excitement about him as a player. And if there's reason for optimism about this Browns team, him and this run game sort of going back to what they used to do is one of the biggest reasons why we felt like maybe the Browns are being undersold going into the season anyway. And now that kind of goes out the window here if he's suspended.
Dude, it's just really like, it's sad. Like, it's just a sad story. Like, on the person side of it, like, is, if it's true, if it's not true, whatever, like you feel bad for the female who's involved, and you feel, without getting into it, you just feel bad for the people involved in it. Especially if what was said was true. It's really bad. It's a bad thing. And like, then from a football perspective, it's like, it's just such a downer, because it's not like, it'd be one thing if they drafted a guy with character flaws and like, hey, this isn't a surprise. Like, everybody's initial reaction to this was like, it cannot be true, because he's been nothing but a model citizen, the best teammate, all of the things that are positive. And he goes and does something like this, and you're like, geez, oh man, like, we were texting on Saturday when the news broke, like, what is wrong with, there's so much. What happens inside the walls of this franchise that it's like, just so unlucky is not the right word for it, but like, you get in there and just this weird stuff just seems to always happen. And it's just super unfortunate, such a bummer on so many levels. And you hit on all the football levels, but it's like, damn, like the Browns try to like do something right for once, and their guy, gets into trouble immediately before he even takes a real practice snap with full pads on. Like, come on, like, they can't be the thing. And the even worse part is, we have experience from last year when his former, well, he wasn't a teammate, but former Ohio State defensive lineman Mike Hall does something very similar, gets suspended for 6 games. So like, there's a precedent out there that, I mean, shoot, you might not see Judkins till October or November on the field, which that doesn't excite anybody. I don't know. It's a tough deal.
Well, you pointed to a bigger picture thing here, because I think the last couple of days with this situation has turned into, how much should Andrew Berry be blamed? And I want to be clear, like, I don't know that you can blame Andrew Berry for drafting Quinshon Judkins, the player, because like you said, there was no character concerns. People at Ole Miss, people at Ohio State, nothing but good things to say about him. He had no prior legal issues. Like, there was no red flags that would have pointed to this being one of those situations where Andrew Berry just like ignores it and says, hey, we don't care. We'll take any, and we don't let that bother us, because he's done that before. Mm-hmm. That wasn't this. This was like, no, this is a stand-up guy. We feel strongly about him. We think he's a good kid. And this kind of came out of the blue. So on some level, like, Andrew Berry was blindsided by that. And so for that, I don't blame him. But, and I was having a conversation with somebody about this the other day, where I think there is maybe some blame to go around for Berry and the organization, is that because they have been so comfortable bringing in players that have had sort of checkered past and had issues and had off the field problems and all those different things, because they've been so comfortable with that. They have set this precedent that, you can come play for us and we just don't get, like, there's been no repercussions for guys doing these things in the past, right? Like they've never really they haven't cut anybody for these types of things. And I get it. Like legal process always has to play out. If it's not as bad as it's initially reported, then you don't have a reason to cut the guy. But I mean, this is the organization that brought in Deshaun Watson and everything that he came with, and the baggage that he brought into Cleveland that we know was very controversial at the time and still is. So I think that's where I think some blame is maybe there, because they've established at this point that like there's no punishments here. Like the punishment might come from the league. You might get a 6-game suspension, but the team isn't going to like, sit there and reprimand you and tell you like this. And I don't know what the conversations are like behind closed doors. I'm sure they're not thrilled about it. I'm sure they're not happy about it. They're not saying like, yeah, go do what you want. But I'm just saying like they've created this environment where players aren't really punished for some of these actions that they've had over the years. And so, there's not even, I don't know, maybe that puts some doubt in a guy's mind. Like, hey, I got to be careful because, last year somebody had the same thing happen and he got cut. I'm just saying. Yeah. They've established at this point like what their culture is, and that's where I think there is maybe some blame to go around for Barry and the organization. But no, I don't blame them for drafting Quinshon Judkins, the player, and feeling like it was the right move because they didn't see any character concerns, and nobody did.
Nobody did. That's the bigger thing. And like it even goes back past Judkins and past Mike Hall. Like you look at Perrion Winfrey a couple years back. Like this is
and they gave him like 4 chances. Like,
it
took a while for them to finally be like, we have to move on from you. And that's what I mean. That's exactly what I'm talking about, Megs. Like they give multiple chances. There's no like immediate recourse. It's just like, yeah, we'll see it through. We'll give you a chance. And on some level, like I understand, like, listen, you're not just going to like, at the same time, like they've established at this point that they will be lenient for the most part. And that necessitates things like this.
Dude, it was like getting that news was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like no way. Like I couldn't imagine being Andrew Barry or Kevin Stefanski getting that text or that phone call and just being like, you have got to be kidding me. Like like come on, like anything else other than this. But here we are. And now again, it was supposed to be so much excitement heading into this week, like rookies and quarterbacks we'll get to in a little bit. They report on Friday. Like they report in 2 days to training camp, and it's off and running. And this wasn't a 7th round pick or 6th round pick. Like you use your second pick of the second round. Like you drafted him 1 spot ahead of Travion Henderson. Like there's awesome players on the board, game changing type players, franchise changing type players on the board, and you thought you had one, and now let's wonder if he plays in October. Like that's kind of what we're looking at right now, which sucks.
Well, and it's also, I saw a lot of, if they had taken Travion Henderson, he would have been in church on Saturday.
Yeah,
I saw a lot of Nick Chubb would have never had these issues. So it's been not so much a banner week for the Browns
that part of it? Isn't that part of it too? Like, I mean, Chubb signs 2 weeks ago or whatever the heck it was, and it's like he would be. He's the first guy you call. Like, come on. Like, you can't, like, it was one of those where it's like, I hope this isn't real. You feel bad in the moment, and then you're like, please, for the love of God, just be a fake report.
Well, and I do think so. We don't have to. We can get into this a little bit more, especially later in the week when we find out more. But there is an interesting conversation here about, like, from a football standpoint, what that means for this running back room now.
Yeah.
Who becomes the lead back, and I think there's kind of an interesting answer there. So we can get into that stuff, I think, coming up, but I do think we wanted to hit on most of the subject at hand and sort of our assessment of it.
They call that a cliffhanger in the business there, Spence.
No, it's more, I like to call it more of a tease. More reason to stick around the channel and check us out later in the week, because we are going to try to drop another episode. So, but yeah, we'll get into that part of it coming up. But in the meantime, for as much as Kevin Stefanski, I think, gets mixed reviews here in Cleveland, it sure seems like on a national scale, he is pretty well regarded. So CBS Sports released a ranking of all 32 coaches, and they sort of had them in different tiers of coaches as well. And so this top tier is the elite of the elite, your top ranked guys. I'm trying to find the exact word. Tier 1 is the cream of the crop. These coaches are not flawless, and some have more pressure than others, but you'd be hard pressed to find any who wouldn't rush to hire them if they were available given their strengths. And this list includes, starting from 12 to 11, 12 to 1, Sean McDermott, Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin, Kevin O'Connell, Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan, Jim Harbaugh, Dan Campbell, Nick Sirianni, John Harbaugh, Sean McVay, and the obvious Andy Reid, who leads the list. And so what I think is interesting about that is like the guys that Kevin Stefanski is kind of measured against, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, like these great offensive minds, they're all in that initial top tier. Kevin Stefanski finds himself in that next tier down. He is the 13th guy. So he's like the first guy in this next tier, which this tier is, I don't even know where the next one is kind of labeled here.
Mediocre. I think
Tier 2 is serviceable veterans.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. So he's considered a serviceable veteran. But still, like being 13th on this list and right after that sort of cream of the crop. And by the way, on this list that CBS did last year, Kevin Stefanski was 10th. So he would have been in that top tier a year ago. I'm assuming, based on how they broke this down. So I find this interesting because I do think there are sort of mixed reviews on Stefanski here in Cleveland. But on that national level, it seems like he is still well regarded as a good coach. But it is also sort of interesting that the guys he's measured against have done it at a level where they belong in that top tier, even without the accolades. Like, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, neither of them have won a Coach of the Year, but they're both there. And, they're in that top tier because they're regarded as some of the best offensive minds in the game. I'm guessing that's the thing that keeps Kevin Stefanski on the fringe here. But, like, they're like, and there's so much context, like the Deshaun thing, that not working out. Whose idea was that? I don't think people put that largely on Kevin Stefanski, but I do think he had a voice in the decision. So that's what's kind of interesting about all this too. But I mean, I don't know. I'll concede the floor to you, but I found it interesting just in terms of how Kevin Stefanski is viewed on a national level versus I think how he's viewed on a local level.
Yeah, some interesting thoughts there. Fascinating stuff coming from Jim Harbaugh being in the top tier. I think head scratcher is not the right word, but like you got to remember, his tenure goes back 2 stints, right? When he was in San Francisco, getting that team to the Super Bowl and doing it with Colin Kaepernick and all those guys. Like that was elite stuff. And now in LA, right? He's got the Chargers on that fringe contender territory. I think that's really interesting. Obviously, Dan Campbell, I talked about him at the front. Like, love him being in there. I thought Sean McDermott being 12th. It's funny because Kevin Stefanski is 13th. Sean McDermott is 12th. Sean McDermott's record is 86-45. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have it right. I don't have it up. And then Kevin Stefanski's 40-44. So, like, literally, they're one spot apart from each other. The only thing Sean McDermott can't do is beat Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, but he's considered on a national level one spot ahead of Kevin Stefanski, which I think is very interesting. And then the Kevin Stefanski conversation, like him being 40-44 seems hilarious to me. Like, that seems like it cannot physically be real with Jacoby Brissett, with Deshaun Watson, with PJ Walker, with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. The list goes on and on.
So you're saying you're impressed that he's 40-47.
I'm impressed that he's 40-47 or 40-44?
Hold on. 40-44.
Yeah, I mean, shocking to me that's where he's at. And you go back, the Jacoby year was the first year with Deshaun, and then the second year with Deshaun ended up being with Joe Flacco, and then last year was just a roller coaster ride of different quarterbacks every week. Everyone's been injured, and he's kept that team going forward. And it doesn't feel that way when we get on. We get on every week and you hear him say, like, all right, we got to be better. I have to be better. Team has to be better. Coach has to be better. I mean, shit, he was 3-14 last year and still has a 40-44 overall record. I think it's impressive. I think we get so caught up in the day-to-day with this team that people tend to overlook him. This guy's a great football coach. And the real shame of all of this is going to be when we force him out of town because of bad decisions and frankly, bad football.
What's interesting is he's ahead of some pretty interesting coaches. Dan Quinn is below him.
Mm-hmm.
D'Amico Ryans is below him, who's regarded as one of the better young guys in the league right now as a coach. Mike Vrabel, who, has the Titans, his stint with the Titans is below Kevin Stefanski. Obviously was here last year as a consultant and ended up coaching the offensive line because of that disaster and everything that was. Zach Taylor below him, which is not that surprising. But in terms of
the Zach Taylor stock is so down. It's that.
Well, there's a lot of pressure on that team, man. They got if they don't, he's going to be the first to go if they don't win, because you're not firing the quarterback, obviously.
Nope.
But listen, I think, and this is what I think is interesting, because I do believe that Kevin Stefanski is still part of the solution, not the problem. I think he still is a good coach. I think he knows what he's doing when he's drawing up an offense. And I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about them going back to what he does best. But I think of all his years at the helm, I think this is this is going to sound so obvious, I guess, but this feels like his biggest test yet. Beyond the Baker early on, what can he do with him? Beyond Deshaun coming off of multiple injuries, are you going to figure that out? This feels like his biggest test because this is the first time he's being asked to sort of develop a quarterback, if you will, or multiple, really. And also it's the first couple years in his system went pretty well. Now you're going back to that. We're gonna this year will be revealing of is he really the problem or the solution if his offense, if going back to his offense doesn't change anything? If they're still a really bad team and the offense is still really bad, then maybe there's a bigger problem there. And so that I understand where I understand where the local emotions come from. I think it's kind of one of those things where it's you can pick on your little brother, you can say bad things about him, but nationally, or somebody else steps in and says something, then you're going to step up for it. I think it's the same sort of thing here, but the difference is nationally, it seems like he sometimes is more regarded than even locally. So I get where some of that comes from, but yeah, if this year's a flop, going back to Stefanski's offense, even given the quarterback situation, the context of all that, I just think he gets a lot of the benefit of the doubt nationally and locally. I think there's a lot of people who don't give him that benefit of the doubt. I try to give it to him. But, and I've been saying for a while, I like Stefanski. I think he's a great coach, but I think this year is going to be critical in terms of really cementing himself as one of those guys. And if it doesn't go well this year, even understanding the quarterback situation, and if they can't get what we've talked about, 7 wins out of this season and at least look competitive, then I think that conversation starts to turn even nationally in terms of how Kevin Stefanski's viewed.
And it'll get loud too. We talked about it on our last show. If they feel safe, him and Andrew Berry, it feels safe because everyone kind of understands what this year is going to be. But when they're 0-6 or they're 1-5 or they're 2-10, those conversations are going to be really, really loud every day inside that locker room. All the stuff. I mean, we've been there, done that before. We'll see I suppose if Jimmy Haslam can keep, his gun in the holster, if you will, when that stuff does happen, because it's more likely than not that it will. I will sit here and say, especially in the next coming weeks, that I think that this Browns team's going to have 6-7 wins, something like that. But if you have 6 wins, you have 12 losses. That or 11 losses. That ain't great. And if you have 7 wins, you get 10 losses. You're not in contention at any point. I don't know, man. It's going to be a long, long year, but I tend to be on the side that, if they do get rid of Stefanski, or if Stefanski's seat starts warming up, you don't know what you got till it's gone, man. Grass ain't always greener. Kind of just as it's the New York Knicks thing, right, where they fired Thibodeau after the Eastern Conference Finals. And they get Mike Brown.
Thibodeau also got a team to the conference finals. Stefanski is Stefanski's JB Bickerstaff right now. he's gotten them on the right track, but he hasn't gotten them past the second round of the playoffs. Like
Might
that's
be.
and frankly, like he wasn't even technically there for the game that of the playoffs they won, for what it's worth.
Man,
I'm just spitting facts. I'm not. I like
that's
Stefanski.
mean. Hey,
listen,
if the referee just had a brain and Rashad Higgins doesn't get speared at the goal line, we probably win the Super Bowl.
Listen. That I hate that rule. It's the worst rule in football. But I'm not. I'm not here to bash Kevin Stefanski. Okay, I like Kevin Stefanski. I think he's a good coach. I have no qualms about him still being here. But like I said, I just think, we did that conversation. That's the big thing he has to prove, and I don't know that he's going to prove it this year, but yeah, like this is a big year for him to sort of cement himself and show whether or not he is this guy that I think nationally they perceive him to be.
Yeah.
So speaking of the quarterbacks, we know that that's going to be the thing that dominates the conversation once camp starts up. Of course, everyone's going to be all eyes on who's starting, who's doing what, whatever. There have been some videos surfacing of Shedeur Sanders practicing at like basically every high school in Northeast Ohio and in full pads and his Browns helmet and everything. I think, I don't know. I know there's a couple of different sort of angles and tentacles you want to get into with the quarterback conversation. I guess I want to know, like, has your perspective on anything changed before camp starts in terms of like where these guys should be, who should start, how you feel about them? And I do think from like the standpoint of Shedeur doing these, posting these videos or people posting these videos of Shedeur, I think this just again goes back to who he always has been. Like, I think this is just who Shedeur is. I think he's proven to you that he's going to be the guy that comes in and works and wants to be great. I think he's putting in that work to do so. And aside from a couple speeding tickets that people tried to use against him, like he's done all the right things so far since he's been here. And this is just more proof of that.
Yeah, pretty cool. Just kind of personal anecdote. One of my best friends is the head basketball coach at Medina Highland, and he was at Highland the other day and just said how cool he was. He brought his own guys, so he didn't need any high schoolers out there catching, but just said he was really cool, just was super respectful, treated everyone right, that he talked to. Similar to be said with some of the guys he threw with earlier in the summer. Some of the old guys I even used to coach back in my coaching days, got a chance to meet him and talk to him and just how cool he has been, which just like, I think it's just pretty sweet. Like, you involve young kids in that stuff. I mean, he's only 20, he's even 21 years old. Yeah, he's 20 years old, so he's not that far removed from some of these guys. And it's just pretty cool, man. It's a really cool deal by him in terms of the actual thought of like how this camp's going to go. I think the Browns have put themselves in a weird spot. Like, the four quarterbacks thing, and I think we've addressed it a lot. My opinion hasn't changed on it. I think it's Flacco's job to lose. I think that we've said it 100 times, like they know what they're getting out of him. Some people are saying that it may be Pickett's job to lose. I think, maybe I don't fall into that category. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But it's going to be weird how they handle the Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel thing. Like, I don't know that there's a right way to do it. There was an option proposed that they split the season up into, was it 6 and 5? Like one guy gets 6 games, another guy gets 6 games, another guy gets 5 games. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't be all that thrilled if I was Myles Garrett or Denzel Ward and the offense was doing that on the other side. Like, that wouldn't.
I mean, they can't map that out ahead of time. That'd be
you could try. Like, you could actually like try to map that out, and then that gets thrown out the window when someone gets hurt or the team starts 4-0 or whatever it may be. But like, I don't know how you evaluate these guys, because you have to evaluate them, right? You can't go into, especially if it starts looking bad and you're looking at a top 5 pick or top 10 pick, and you're like, hey, we go get Cade Klubnik or Arch Manning or Lenore Sellers or whoever it may be. Like, you have to know what you have in these guys. It's going to be weird how they look to handle all of this. I'm really we've used the word interesting 100 times in this episode, but I'm just really interested to see what their plan of attack is on how to figure out how to evaluate all 4 of these guys at quarterback.
Well, what I would say, like the evaluation process is going to be like, of course, interesting to follow. Like and what all like how they go about it. I always try to keep in mind, they see these guys every single day. We only see them some of the time, so they have an even better read on it than we do. So I trust them a lot of the time in that regard. But at the same time, like I thought it was undeniable at minicamp that Shedeur like the best quarterback out there in turn. And I get it, he was not with the ones, so we can only evaluate so much. That only means so much. But he was consistently doing the things that you expected. He was making the most head turning throws I thought throughout minicamp. And that's my big thing is like if he continues to do that, how long until he gets reps with the ones? Like how long can they possibly keep him away from taking those reps? That's one of my biggest questions I have. And I understand, like, Kevin Stefanski's always going to throw the answer in our face of like, well, you guys aren't here every day, so you don't know like what we do behind closed doors, and you don't know what we did at minicamp. Like they're all getting reps with different groups, but when we were out there, we never saw them take reps with the ones. And I think that was pretty telling as to how they're sort of going about this quarterback competition. But I want to know how long they can hold him off, and because if he goes out with the ones and he plays great, you open this whole can of worms, and maybe that's what they're trying to avoid. Like maybe because they want to slow play it and they want one of the veterans to start, that's what's going to happen. But if he goes out and does what I've seen him do already, and that's just be consistent even with the ones, then it's like, all right, well, how can you possibly like deny this guy an opportunity here to try to win the starting job? So we'll see. And I don't mean to discredit or leave Dylan Gabriel out of the conversation. We know the team loves him. I'm not as high on him as a prospect, frankly. I've been pretty clear about that, and people have bashed me for the take. But they love him. They love the intangibles he brings to the table. So we'll see what that looks like as well. But, I think he's going to get a fair shake in it. But if Shedeur's not taking reps of the ones, can we call that a fair shake? Probably not. So I'm super, super curious how long it takes for them to give him those opportunities, like with people watching. And in training camp, there's a lot more people watching than there was at minicamp. So we'll see.
And I would also add too, like, what if just everybody was like right about their evaluations of Shedeur Sanders, where most people had him going in the top 10. 95% of people had him going in the top 35 picks.
Yeah.
Nobody had him going in the 5th round. Like, what if he is, that first round type guy, that top 20 type guy, that top 10 type guy? You get him on the field, and now you have a potential quarterback in the future at a very low cost for you right now, where that just like, talk about a Super Bowl window, that just like throws it all the way open. And you're like, all right, let's go all in now, as you're staring down the barrel of 2 first-round picks next year, and you have a bunch of draft capital, and you can go and try to make something happen. And I think that's a legit possibility. Like, we've been kind of like doom and gloom to like this point in the show, but like, what happens if that's the case, right? Like, what happens if something does go right and he is that guy? And now the Browns have kind of struck gold and done so in the 5th round. I think that's a realistic thing too.
Can I also say, like, we've turned the beginning of the season into this boogeyman because it's 6 tough games or whatever, but that's all based off of like last year. Sure. Also, like, beginning of the season is always kind of weird. I mean, the Bengals start every season like 0-4, 0-5, and then they dig themselves out of it. Like, you just never know. So, like, I understand the concept of, don't play these guys too soon, give them time to learn and develop. I understand how that works. I understand there are teams who deploy that. It sounds like that's what the Browns are trying to do with both Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. But at the same time, like, I have been open-minded to the idea that, like, if one of those guys looks the best, you start him week 1, because you have to sell to this team that, like, you're trying to win football games and that you're going to put the best guy out there. Which maybe you manipulate the situation a little bit by not giving them as many opportunities and then being like, well, we didn't think they looked as good because we didn't see them play with the ones as much. Maybe that's how you manipulate it, like I said. But like it's the most interesting part of this quarterback competition to me is just like how they're going to divvy all this up. You got 4 guys, a lot of mouths to feed for one job. Is it going to be even? Probably not. And so, is that by design? Is that because they just don't think those 2 young guys are ready? Are they trying to keep them off the field? We'll see. But yeah, if Shedeur looks great, I don't know how long you keep him off the field. And like you said earlier, you have to be able to evaluate these guys on some level before the season ends.
Yeah, there's no question about it that, they've put themselves in a little bit of a pickle. I think that it's, I'm not going to call it champagne problems, but it's certainly not a end of the world type of situation. But, you have to handle this correctly, because if you don't, now you're going to be head scratching come the NFL draft next year, where, you have to get it all right. And if you don't know what you got in your own room, that's a big problem. And they have to just handle it properly to find it all out.
One final thought. I think this is kind of, we each have there's two different topics that we kind of tossed around here. And so I guess I'll take one and you'll take one. This is kind of how we're doing this. I'm just going to take the helmet one. Apparently there's murmurs that a new helmet's coming out. And apparently there's rumors that's going to be brown. Oh yeah, that's it. That's it right there. I'm sorry. That's terrible. That's terrible. They don't need it. What do they need a brown helmet for?
You don't need it.
What is that in the jersey repertoire that you need brown? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I don't even know what jersey it goes with. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I don't. If I'm telling the truth, I don't hate the matte brown, but like, that's fine. That is a fine helmet to go on my shelf at home. Like, oh, this could be a cool guy. Like, I don't know what you do with that. If they come, that's so bad. It's so bad.
I just think this feeds the narrative that people have that the Browns like color scheme is kind of like gross and embarrassing, just like the franchise. Like, brown helmet. I just can't wrap my head around it.
Even ditch the white helmet too.
I like the white. The white helmet.
It's been nothing but bad.
You're talking about this one? You're talking about this one?
It's been nothing. Pull it into your screen.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Okay, fine helmet. Horrible.
They have had bad luck, although they did beat the 49ers with that helmet.
Yeah, they did with PJ Walker.
No, listen. I think the white helmet's fine. It can stay. I just think brown. Like, nobody wants a brown. Bad. I mean, maybe there are people who want a brown helmet, but I just think I think it's gross. I think it's not necessary. Nobody asked for that. I don't. People asked for them to go back to the sort of like old school looking jersey scheme, and they did. People asked for a white helmet, and they did. I have not heard people clamoring for a brown helmet.
Nobody wants that.
And here's the thing: like, you asked what jersey it goes with. Think about those Color Rush jerseys. Remember when they did the Color Rush thing? And it was the all brown. The reason that worked was because you had the orange helmet and the orange accents. It was like perfect. You had the orange stood out in all phases. If you add brown to that, it just looks like a big pile of shit. Like, it just looks like a big pile of shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for what it is.
I'm just gonna say it.
It is. You just like, that's one of those where it's like, all right,
do you wear that with the white? Like, do you wear that with the white jersey?
You maybe could. Like, that would maybe be okay.
Is that how you make it not look so bad? Because like all brown, even brown helmet is just not. I don't think that's a good look. I just don't.
Dude, that's one where you just like, for God's sake, somebody, just an ounce of common sense somewhere, be like, hey, maybe we don't do this. Just maybe not, because they're just gonna. Everybody in the world is going to
do like a chrome orange. Do like the Oregon Ducks chrome orange or something. We don't need brown.
Remember the throwback Browns helmets with the numbers on them, like with the single white stripe, like that was cool. Like, don't, for the love of God, or whatever you believe in, just don't do that. That would be
I'm not a fan of the brown. I'm not a fan of the brown.
Dude, that'd be so bad. So bad. We'll see. All right, let's go positive real quick. Are the Browns trading for Quinshon Judkins? Ready, set, go. What do you think?
You have some inside information? You're just asking straight up, are they trading for him?
Straight up for it. So Quinshon Judkins comes out, third and Juwan, the best nickname in all of football because he's a beast on third down. I wrote a piece about this yesterday, 2 days ago now, you can find it on our site. It's below, si.com, NFL/Browns. But if he doesn't get the contract extension that he's looking for, he's going to request a trade from the 49ers. Is that somebody that Cleveland should be interested in going to try and get?
Well, so what I think is maybe most interesting about this is that we know that the Browns have had calls with the 49ers in the past because they just did it last year when they were trying to trade for Brandon Ayuk. So I think they've had interest in receivers there before, so that's good. I also do think like Juwan Jennings fits a need for the Browns. He can play the slot. He plays a lot of slot. He is kind of like that Z style guy who can do a lot of different things, line up a lot of different places. And he's like a touch guy. Like he needs the ball in space and just can kind of do whatever. He does a lot. A lot of his stuff comes over the middle of the field.
Big body, 6'3".
Yeah. So I like the idea of Juwan Jennings, and he's kind of like for a team that doesn't have a lot of experience at wide receiver. I think he'd be a great fit. Yeah. Here's the problem though. The Browns didn't want to give an extension to I just keep going back to this. They didn't want to give an extension to Amari Cooper last year, who had obviously earned it at the age of, he was going into his age 30 season. He had just turned 30 before training camp last year. Like, they didn't want to do it. Juwan Jennings is 28. He wants a new contract. So trading for him will come with a new contract. Do you want to fork up and pay a guy who's 28, knowing that like he might only have 2, maybe 3 years where you feel like he's like, because that's the thing, like they've signaled they're getting younger at that position. They traded for Jerry Jeudy to get younger at the position. They tried to trade for Brandon Ayuk to get younger at the position. They don't want these guys who are like late 20s, early 30s anymore. And I don't know that they would pay a guy that's in that range. It's the same reason why I don't think the Terry McLaurin rumors have any legs to him, because they're not going to trade for a receiver who's 30. They're just not.
It's interesting too.
Not Juwan's 28, so it's different, but I'm just saying. And
like, in my opinion, just strictly by looking at numbers and kind of watching them both play, it's very similar to Cedric Tillman. They're the same body type. They're kind of the same receiver, right? I'm not saying it's the same production level, but it's a very similar guy. And like, if you go that route, if you do take a chance at Juwan Jennings, like maybe it is just a straight swap of like, hey, we'll trade you Cedric Tillman for Juwan Jennings. But like, to your point, that's not what this team has signaled that they're trying to do at the receiver position. So I think you make a really solid point there. But he is coming off a really great year, had just south of 1,000 yards last year, had a handful of touchdowns. And he really did become one of Brock Purdy's favorite targets in high leverage situations, third downs, red zones, like big time plays, big time situations. The ball was going to him. So I think that, I bet they explore the opportunity, whether they pull the trigger or not on it. I think you make a really, really good point about them not pulling the trigger, but I do think that, it could be an option for them.
Well, like you said, he's kind of Cedric Tillman stylistically. Yeah. And if the Browns already feel like they like Cedric Tillman a lot and you feel like you're getting a lot of the same stuff from him, he's younger. He's in year 2. Juwan Jennings is in year like 7 or 8 or whatever it is, 6 or 7. I can't remember off the top of my head now. So like, why would you trade for him at that point, especially when he's older? But like he is basically Cedric Tillman with the actual production. That's the difference. Yeah. So
and you're hoping.
I don't hate it. I don't hate the idea. I don't know that they are going to be inclined to do that.
And Germ, if Cedric Tillman turns into Juwan Jennings, you're like, okay, solid. Like, yes, that's that's kind of good. That would be a good piece for the Browns. Like, that'd be nice.
Talk more about the Quinshon Judkins situation and what that means for the running back room. I have some thoughts on who sort of leads the way in that group if he is suspended, so we'll get to that later this week. We got a few other topics, obviously, on the docket as well.
I got a name, too, an old friend of the Browns.
Oh, to trade for, you're saying?
Or to sign, one of the two.
Oh, he's out there, huh?
He's out there.
He's available is what you're saying.
He is available.
It's not Nick Chubb, so you'll have to find out who it is. Keep on following along. As always, head on over si.com/NFL/Browns for any of our written content. I have, leading up to training camp, a bunch of position group previews going out. So we'll have more of those for you leading up to all the days before camp as we get you ready for training camp. And obviously subscribe to the YouTube channel here if you haven't done so already. Find more podcast episodes like this, other content. We'll have a ton of press conferences from training camp and throughout the season. It's all going to be coming hot and heavy here in the coming weeks and days. So you're not going to want to miss any of that, especially when Shedeur Sanders speaks. We know that he's a fan favorite on the YouTube channel. So please subscribe if you haven't done so already. For Anthony Moeglin, I'm Spencer German. And as always, keep on following along with all things Cleveland Browns with the Cleveland Browns on SI.